everyone. So I really appreciate you taking the time to be here. It's really heartwarming. And thank you, Madeline, for having me as the guest speaker. My book, How May I Serve, author Karen Matthews, which is myself, Monica Bennett. And the story, I changed the names and locations just for privacy reasons, and my past was a little bit sordid, so I wanted to keep people anonymous and protect people's identity. So that's what that was about. The story is really a memoir of my life so far. It's entitled How May I Serve, and inside it says Memoirs of a Spiritual Waitress, because I went back to waitressing after so many years of doing so many different other things, but life takes its ups and downs and turns and twists, and we never know where sometimes we're going to wind up in life. And what I have on my business card is navigating uncertainty with faith and courage, because without those two ingredients, we really don't have a chance of moving forward with any kind of courage and faith. So it's really important to have those two ingredients to move forward. And my story is, as I said, it's pretty interesting to read, because I'm first generation American. Both my parents were Holocaust survivors born in Berlin and Munich, and their lives were full of uncertainty, and they had to have a lot of faith and courage to move forward. Their childhood was ripped from them. They were both only children, and I write about a little bit about their upbringing and what they went through. And then they came to this country with nothing but dreams and hopes, and they made it. They made it, but they had a lot of baggage, mental baggage of the war, a lot of fear, a lot of uncertainty that stayed with them. And if you don't take care of those things on a mental level, it gets transferred to the children. And that's what happened with my brother and myself. My brother was the firstborn. He was born 3 years before me, and he's a very smart guy. And he was able to get through his years of upbringing without too much scathing. For myself, I was a different story. I was a rebel. I was an unwanted baby, unwanted child. My father wanted to have me aborted at first, and then that didn't go through, so I was supposed to be put up for adoption, and my mother couldn't do that. But because of that, I don't think I know now through my studies that even in a womb, a child knows what's going on a certain level. So through my upbringing, I always had this feeling of being unloved and unlovable. And of course, if you have that feeling, you're going to attract circumstance after circumstance to validate that point. And that's exactly what I did. My life was a mess. It really was. It took twists and turns, and I didn't really have any direction. I was very motivated, and I had a tremendous amount of energy. So, and I always was brought up to do good. So I always moved forward on that level. But I didn't have the structure in my life to really choose correctly. And I chose wrong men. And my addiction in life was really men, because I wanted to be loved, and I never got that from my father. So I was always seeking my father's love through wrong relationships. And it would take me down some really dark places. Until I finally had to wake up. I had 2 daughters of my own, which I love very much, and my older daughter became a heroin addict. And I always say that took me to my knees, and I stayed there, because that just shook my world like nothing else. I really had to start looking at myself to see. I blamed myself for a while, and I looked and I said, well, if I did this different, if I did this different. But then I realized I didn't cause it, I can't cure it, I can't control it. I went to Al-Anon, and I realized those 3 mantras. And still, for a mother, it still breaks your heart to have a daughter go on that rocky road. And she still she's doing okay, but she's still struggling. I have another daughter who's doing excellent and doing really well. So two girls that I brought up into the world, one struggles, one is doing very well. But my road took all these twists and turns. I traveled throughout the world. I was fortunate enough as a young girl to be exposed to many different cultures. I've been to Japan, Thailand, Israel, all over Europe, Australia, New Zealand, Iceland. I've been to many, many cultures and different places in the world. And it brought me to who I am now as a very secure person who loves myself. I didn't like myself at all. And now I do. I've learned to love myself. I've learned to go in and find out what it is that really is good. And that's the journey we all have to encounter within ourselves, is find out who we are and really love ourselves on that deep, deep level, to know that we are worthy of all things that are good. And I really went through that introspective look inside of myself to uncover all the good things about myself, which I denied. So now I'm allowing that to come out. And I wanted to share that because I know a lot of women who struggle with self-esteem and issues of not being worthy, and even that chatter, that self-talk of always doubting ourselves, thinking that we're not good enough, that might not work out, but really trusting and knowing that if we have faith and courage, everything is possible for us. Anything is possible if we just take that leap of faith and go for it. And know that it'll always be okay. It'll always be okay if you trust in yourself. So that's my journey. That's my story. It is a compelling story. People have told me it would make a great movie because it's a quick read, and it's like, oh my God, she did that and she did that, and oh my God, you know. So it's a quick read, and it's interesting. So, but the reason why I did write it is just to help other women to understand that our circumstances don't define us, that we can do anything. And this is the year that women really need to go out and share their gifts with the world, give the world whatever they have to offer, those gifts, because it's time that we come out. The world needs us. The world really needs us to be the best version of ourselves. So it's a beautiful time in history, although it seems like a scary time in history. I mean, coming from the subway and seeing all those, I mean, I've never seen so many guards, and oh my God, it's like martial law. It was crazy. And it's like, this is, you know, and it's almost time, going back in time to my mother's era, my mother and father's era with the I shouldn't say the Nazi regime, but it was a little bit like that. So I think it's time that we need that feminine energy, that sacred feminine energy, to really come out and change the world and come from the heart and really realize that's how we're going to change the world, is from heart to heart. And I could have written a self-help story without my personal story, but I think that's how we change and we really connect, is through the heart. And stories do that, and we can always relate to someone's story because it grabs us and it pulls us in. So thanks for coming out again, and